Happy McCoy Month, everyone! And to celebrate, I'll catch you up with not everything that happened in the Seventh Doctor's life, but the main points from his regeneration in Time of the Rani to his regeneration in the TV movie. Let's get on with this. Right, so here's the thing. I'm not going to count short stories, comics, Day of the Doctor, and I'm not going to count Death Comes to Time. My reasons. Short stories just took forever to place. Comics are questionably canon. I do not know whether to count them or not. Day of the Doctor I'm not counting because it's very hard to place. And Death Comes to Time, spoiler alert, the Seventh Doctor actually dies. The Doctor just dies. He flat out dies. He doesn't regenerate into the Eighth Doctor. So the events in it conflict with the TV series. Right, time for the boring shit. So, just to clear up how I've made this timeline, I'm not going 100% off Tardis Wiki. So, my script says, but I have loosely used it as a guide. I'm not sure if this is good English or not. Okay, one of my other sources was the Doctor Who Reference Guide. I use this because of the fact that I tried to see if it was explicitly stated that a story took place between two others. So, stories can be organised with certain factors. Companion, Tardis, outfit, and personality. However, companions come and go, and then they come again, and then go again, etc., etc. And his Tardis interior changes multiple times from one to the other. And he sometimes wears the wrong clothing. Oh yeah, and he also deletes some of his memories if he deems them useless. So continuity errors would be explained. Thanks, John Peel! But stories where he's alone depend on his personality. When he's jovial, this is either early in his life or just before the end. When he's more somber, it's close to the end, but not too close. The Doctor switches from usually wearing his lighter jacket to usually wearing the darker one in the Big Finish story, 1963, The Assassination Games. His Virgin New Adventures costume was introduced in the, New Adventure, White Darkness, though he may have worn it before and still occasionally wears his old jacket. Stories where he wears his TV movie costume must be placed after Sovala Sin, but again, some stories have it so he's not wearing that costume. I'm also going to mention that there are 3 aces, and this depends on her personality type, so we can judge when we place her, or when we place the adventures with her in. There's TV Ace, who appeared from Dragonfire to Love and War. You can guess her personality type. New Ace, who was the New Adventures adaptation of Ace from the New Adventure Deceit to Set Piece. And then there's Older Ace, who is in most of the Big Finish plays. And now, time for the organisation of stories based on companions. Any stories where the Doctor's travelling with just Mel must take place between Time of the Rani and Dragonfire. However, any stories with her and Ace must follow a life of crime. Any stories involving TV Ace must take place from Dragonfire to Love and War, while any story with New Ace must take place after Deceit and before Set Piece. Any stories where the Seventh Doctor travels with Bernie Summerfield must take place between Love and War and Deceit, or between Set Piece and Happy Endings. Any stories where Ace and Benny's relationship are non-antagonistic must take place after Near Future. Any story with Ross Forrester and Chris Quej as companions must take place between Original Sin and Sovala Sin. Any story featuring just Chris as a companion must take place before Long Barrow. Any story where the Doctor and Ace travel with Hex must take place between The Harvest and Signs and Wonders. Now, this is a more complex matter, so I'm going to quote Tardis Wiki. In Iceberg and Sanctuary, the Doctor travels in the Jade Pagoda, the TARDIS's small escape pod, if you will. The Doctor starts travelling in the TARDIS of an alternate version of his third incarnation, in Bloodheat, and doesn't switch back until Happy Endings. In The Angel of Scutari, the TARDIS turns white. It stays that way until Gods and Monsters. After Lurkers at Sunlight's Edge, and until Gods and Monsters, when it is destroyed, the Doctor also travels in the second black TARDIS, the daughter of the proper white one. The change from the TARDIS's white interior to the TV movie one is depicted or referred to several times. In Long Barrow, the TARDIS changes into a Victorian parlour design to resemble the Doctor's family estate in the House of Long Barrow and retains the look into the TV movie. The settling follows a period where the Doctor and companions are separated and says that they've just redecorated. From that point on, monthlies with Ace have the TV movie TARDIS sound effects. From black and white to Gods and Monsters, the proper TARDIS temporarily reuses the white interior and the black one has the TV movie one. The interior temporarily reverts in Signs and Wonders. In Ground Zero, the TARDIS, the white interior, is damaged and it is implied that it's going to change, with the Euphoria indent being that it changed the Victorian parlour design in the lead up to the TV movie, and in X-less decays, the Doctor claims that he apparently built the Victorian parlour himself. Okay, one last thing before I start. Here are all the stories I'm going to spoil, essentially. In the Big Finish audio adventure, The Brink of Death, Seven starts developing in Sixie's mind during the regeneration process, which leads into Time of the Rani. I don't have a physical copy of it, it's in my Regenerations box set. Okay, so it's where the newly regenerated Doctor battles the Rani on the Kersha, and he hasn't recovered from his regeneration, as depicted in the audio on Regenerate, due to certain hormones in his body. So after the stories which are scrolling past me on screen, which will be a feature in this video, we have the audio story, The Warehouse, where the Doctor's fabulous rainbow umbrella, or just a wooden one, I don't know, I've not listened to this story, gets destroyed and the Doctor gets a new one. This one! Even though he had it in red, which is a continuity error, but let's just forget about that. So after a few more adventures, we get to the audio story, The Fires of Vulcan, which is essentially The Fires of Pompeii if it were pure historical, where we start seeing a darker side to the Seventh Doctor. And then up next, Dragonfire, where Seven and Mel meets Habalom Glitz. Also, yeah, a certain 16-year-old girl from Perivale called Ace is on Iceworld, and they meet her. And she becomes a companion and Mel leaves and stuff. But we'll find out how Ace got onto Iceworld later. So next we have the beloved Remembrance of the Daleks, which Ace first meets the Daleks, and according to the new adventure Head Games, this is when Ace first doubted the Doctor's motives. So after we have the Happiness Patrol, I've decided to place the greatest show in the galaxy here, mainly due to the fact that Ace requires Flower Child's earring, and she wears it in the next story, Silver Nemesis. However, due to issues in production, the serial was broadcast out of order. Now, after a short trip, we get to 1963, the Assassination Games, where the Doctor meets up with countermeasures from Remembrance of the Daleks again, and mentions events from that story and another unknown one. After that, the Doctor and Ace see a red flashing light on the TARDIS console room, or in the TARDIS console. The same light that appeared on all the other Doctors worth talking about's TARDISes, and the Fifth Doctor's. Yup, it's the light at the end! I'm placing this here due to the fact that 1963 The Assassination Games is also an anniversary story, and Ace doesn't know what regeneration is, nor does she know the Master, but all the Doctors forget about this and all the companions forget about this, so So now we start off with Season 26. Battlefield is the next story. Ace meets the Brigadier for the first time in her life, while the Doctor meets him for the first time since his 6th regeneration. Then, after emotionally manipulating Ace in Ghostlight, the Curse of Fenric happens. We learn about Fenric's master plan, as well as the fact that Fenric is the reason Ace appeared on Iceworld. Also, Seven emotionally manipulates Ace further.
Kneel if you want the girl to live.
Kill her.
Also, Ace is gifted an authentic Kappa insignia of the Red Army by Captain Sorry. Just thought I'd mention that. There's a sticker back here, okay. And then we have one of the only Doctor Who stories that can make me cry. No, really. We have Survival. Now, The novelization deals how the Doctor and Ace have returned to Earth for the first time since the Curse of Fenric, which was a week before. Ace encounters the Master for the first time, not counting the light at the end due to her forgetting about the events and etc. And she meets him on Cheetah World, and so does the Doctor. And they have both both Ace and the Master become infected with the Cheetah virus. Though Ace begins to recover by the serial's conclusion, so she's fine. And then we've got the Unmade Season 27 as told by Big Finish. First up, there's Thin Ice. No, not that one. This is Ace's first encounter with the Ice Warriors. The Doctor claims that he's never delivered a baby before, and the baby he delivers in the story is someone called Rain Creevy, and the Doctor tries to get Ace accepted into the Time Lord Academy, but she refuses, and the Time Lords do not accept her. And yeah, then Crime of the Century, which takes place almost immediately after this, where Rain Creevy, all grown up, joins the TARDIS. In Animal, Rain's first journey is to Margrave University in 2001, where she discovers that her father has died. Upset by the revelation, Rain decides to stay at Margrave University for a short time. Some time passes between Animal and Earthade, and Rain returns, and we won't see her for a while. I'll just note that the next story on this list, The Algebra of Ice, is set 20 months before Time War and Revelation. So, after a few more stories, we get to the Genocide Machine, which introduces Bev Tarrant. Also, the events of the story are mentioned in the next story, Prime Time, which also mentions events from Storm Harvest. Another thing that happens in the story is that the Doctor discovers Ace's future dead body and tries to keep her out of danger, leading into Heritage. After another few stories, we finally get to New Adventures, published by Virgin. We first have the Time Wearer arc, then the Cat's Cradle arc, and then in Nightshade, the Doctor thinks about retiring before having an adventure that's a homage to Quatermass. Then, the Doctor essentially kidnaps Ace when she tries to leave. In Relative Dimensions, Ace refers to her escape from the underwater spaceship and battlefield, and meeting her grandmother during the Curse of Enric. She is still under the legal drinking age. Miss Gallowglass gives a cryptic warning to the Doctor and Ace about the upcoming events of Independence Day. No, not that one! Then, in Love and War, the Doctor betrays Ace by sacrificing a love interest. Yeah. But then, the Doctor meets Professor Bernie Summerfield and travels with her, so all is good. Waiting for stories to scroll past. And then in Deceit, Ace returns after 3 years of leaving the Doctor, after that incident on Heaven that I recently just mentioned. She decides to return to the TARDIS, but no longer trusts the Doctor. And the TARDIS is cured of the protoplasm infection from Cat's Cradle Witchmark. Oh yeah, that happens. Blood Heat takes place a few months after Deceit, but the events of Birthright are recent. TARDIS falls through a puncture in the time vortex, and then later realizes someone is toying with time. The Doctor acquires a new sonic screwdriver from the possessions of his deceased alternate third incarnation, and also takes that Doctor's TARDIS after he lost his in a tar pit. In No Future, the Doctor discovers that the monk has been corrupting the timeline as a revenge stunt, but is able to defeat his enemy and regain Ace's trust. He also smashes the chameleon circuit of his TARDIS with a hammer, destroying it. The Doctor thinks he killed the Master in Survival, despite having spoken of him in the present tense during Deceit. And then, in First Frontier, the Doctor and Ace encounter the Master for the first time since Survival. Ace fatally shoots the Master, but he is able to regenerate into a new form. Because reasons. But then, Ace considers leaving the TARDIS. And then, in Set Piece, Ace leaves. Don't know what else to say there. After multiple adventures, one of which involved him turning human, he meets two new companions. Roz Forrester and Chris Schwey, which, yes, that's how you actually pronounce it, but he just tells everyone to pronounce it how it's spelled, Quej. And I'm rambling. The pair are introduced in Original Sin. And after a load of adventures, one of which has Benny leave, and another have Seven meet his fifth incarnation soon after his regeneration. Roz dies and so far Sin, leaving Chris as one of the Doctor's few solo male companions. So after the final few new adventures, the Doctor returns to the House of Longbarrow. Chris leaves. The Doctor is sent on a mission by the Time Lords to pick up the Master's remains on Skaro, and is also given a new sonic screwdriver by Romana, which leads into the TV movie, or it would if multiple stories imply that this isn't the case, which makes room for Big Finish's monthly range 7th Doctor adventures. In The Revolution, the Doctor finds Benny. He has left Ace on Gallifrey in the Academy in his future at a point after Romana opens the Academy to aliens. Ace's life on Gallifrey can be blamed for the anomalies in her aging or sterility. So yeah, like with Leela and Chris Quedge. So, more stuff from the new adventures of Bernie Summerfield, and then I have to ask you this. Remember Bev Tarrant? He appeared in The Genocide Machine, and he reappears again in Just Breeding. My script says into Just Breeding, but that doesn't make any sense. So then the next story called it The Duo Meet a Nazi Version of Dr. Elizabeth Klein. Remember her name. Also, Ace decides to be called McShane. Yeah. Then, and in an exciting adventure with the Cybermen, the Harvest, Hex joins! Then McShane decides that Ace is a much better name in Life 34, which, let's be honest, it is. But then, we've got the black and white Tardis arc, which is essentially the Tardis turns white and bursts the black one, which could be a metaphor for racism, and the Doctor does travelling in the black one, proving he's accepting nature, and I went too far into this to pad out the video, didn't I? Yes, I did. I'm padding out the video further just so you can see all the adventures they had together. It starts with a magic mousetrap, where the Doctor sees a chess set! No, not worthy of a dun-dun-dun. What if I told you that a chess set is a sign that Fenric is preparing his return? Really? Now is the time that you have a dun-dun-dun. Whatever. Then, after a few more stories, Hex then leaves after the death of his mother in Project Destiny. Speaking of death, in A Death in the Family, even Smythe, companion of the 6th Doctor, dies. I did say there were gonna be spoilers. But then, he seems to come back. Yeah. More adventures in the black and white TARDISes until Black and White, where the black one gets destroyed and the white one gets cured and turns blue again! And then, in Gods and Monsters, Hex enters the Time Vortex to defeat Fenric, and dies! Or does he? And there it is again. Turns out he ain't dead, but he forgot his memories and now is a bloke called Hector, which we found out in Revenge of the Swarm. In Mask of Tragedy, the Doctor had decided to take Ace and Hector to Greece to relax after the event of Revenge of the Swarm after their vacation. That's American, we call it a holiday. After their holiday, Hector asks the Doctor to return him home, leading into Signs and Wonders. Speaking of, Hector leaves the TARDIS to settle down with Sally, a companion who, from the impression I have from her from an outsider's perspective, wasn't worth mentioning until now. Oh, and he will raise a family with her. Well, that's why he's leaving. And now, Ace tries to learn how to fly the TARDIS throughout the anthology release, You Are the Doctor and Other Stories. She seems to fail flying the TARDIS, but the Doctor knows that isn't her fault. The TARDIS is just trying to find someone. That someone is Melanie Bush. The duo find Mel in the audio story A Life of Crime, starting the 7th Doctor trilogy from 2016 with another trilogy currently happening right now. Now we get to his solo travels. Time to speak about A Death in the Family again. There's actually 2 7th Doctors in it. So for the older Doctor, it is set directly after Project Lazarus. After the Doctor's younger self is killed, which happens, he burns out of existence, When time catches up to him, he and the young Doctor agree that burning into existence will be painful. He looks older than the younger Doctor. He also implies that something bad will happen to Ace. Then, in Master, we find the Master on Earth as a man called Dr. John Smith, after the Doctor made a deal with Death to resurrect him as a new man. This portion was added into the script after I listened to Master, and it's honestly too good to spoil in a non-review format. I might get around to it at some point. Honestly, just buy this one and listen for yourself. You find out crude stuff in the past of the Doctor and the Master, and it gives a better reason for the Master being evil. Like, Durr! I have drums in my head! Durr! And by the way, more stories occur after this, blah blah blah. Blah blah doo. Remember Dr. Elizabeth Klein? She returns in 1,000 tiny wings. However, Klein enacts revenge by stealing the Tardis and ditching the Doctor on the planet of the Vril, which happens in survival of the fittest. But then, in the Architects of History, Klein is erased from history by the Time Lords! Because the Time Lords are freaking awesome like that. Haven't you seen the War Games? Then the Doctor visits UNIT to find a different version of Klein now working there. Then after searching for the persuasion machine with Klein and a new companion Will, we get the Two Masters, where the Doctor meets and defeats two incarnations of the Master simultaneously. And he reboots the universe. Yep, that happens. Then, in the Eighth Doctors, a story where the Eighth Doctor, earlier in his life, meets all of his previous incarnations, or maybe not meet all of them, but goes through a bunch of their stories. Anyways, after having a midlife crisis whilst dealing with his approaching death, the Doctor is inspired to enjoy the time he has left after being rescued from an 8-leg by his successor. From one cameo to another, we have the 11. Well, it's prologue anyway, where the Doctor defeated the titular Time Lord and got him imprisoned on Gallifrey, because if the 7th Doctor was the main Doctor in Doom Coalition, it wouldn't be 4 box sets long, it would be 1 at most. But at the end of this prologue, the Doctor is given a task. Presumably, the one where he deals with the Master's remains, which leads into the TV movie, where the Master escapes and there's a timing malfunction, so he lands in San Francisco, 1999, gets shot, receives bad surgery, flatlines, then regenerates into the 8th Doctor. And that is it. Make sure to comment down below if you have issues with my timeline, and let me know if you want to see another one of these. Enjoy the rest of McCoy Month on the Whoniversals, and I've been Matt, and we've got work to do.